Major support for Carolina Business Review provided by Grant Thornton. Operating in more than 100 countries, our tax, audit, and advisory professionals specialize in helping companies unlock their growth potential. Colonial Life, providing benefits to employees to help them protect their family, their finances, and their futures. And Sonoco, a global manufacturer of consumer and industrial packaging products and provider of packaging services with more than 300 operations in 35 countries.
The beginning of the school year is always a good time for assessment, right? Not just for the cost of books or supplies or tuition, et cetera, but a general sense of reassessing where we are, where we're headed, getting back down to business, and so to speak, getting back to school. Welcome again to the most widely watched source of Carolina business, policy, and community affairs, seen throughout North and South Carolina for 29 years now. I'm Chris William, and thank you for supporting this dialogue. We start with our usual panel of experts. And speaking of back to school, the brand new president of Charlotte's Queen University, Daniel Lugo, joins us.
Gratefully acknowledging support by Martin Marietta, a leading provider of natural resource-based building materials, providing the foundation upon which our communities improve and grow. Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, an independent licensee of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association. Visit us at southcarolinablues.com. The Duke Endowment, a private foundation enriching communities in the Carolinas through higher education, healthcare, rural churches, and children's services. Barings, a leading global asset management firm dedicated to meeting the evolving investment and capital needs of its clients. Learn more at barings.com. On this edition of Carolina Business Review, Aaron Nelson from the Hill-Carrboro Chamber of Commerce, Otis Rawl of the Greater Lexington Chamber and Visitors Center, and special guest, Daniel Lugo, president of Queen's University.
Welcome to our program. Gentlemen, welcome back. Aaron, good to have you here. Odie, always nice to see you both.
Thank you.
So, you know, in the circles that you travel, I know you talk about economic development and workforce development, community issues, et cetera, but Odie, let's start with you. You know, does the idea, you can't get around headlines right now about trade with China or unemployment rate or the fact that the Fed is going to drop interest rates or, oh my gosh, there's an imminent threat to recession, et cetera, et cetera. Do you get the sense that people are edgy about a recession or about the economy, or is that just something that tends to be a headline over here?
In my opinion, in the circles that I run, Chris, I think it's just a little people are edgy. I mean, I think consumer confidence is waning just a little bit. And I just worry about the media sometimes exercising their rights and making something a lot bigger than what it is. We knew the market was going to have some type of readjustment. I mean, we're up to around 30,000 points.
You're talking about financial markets?
Yeah, financial markets and all, up around 30,000 points and all. And everybody's been talking about an adjustment for a while. But, you know, if you look at President Trump, he's pretty much done what he said he was going to do. He was going to look after American business. He was going to look after American jobs, and that's what he's done. I mean, he's protected our markets from global markets and making people finally, in my opinion, finally pay for what they should have been paying for a long time. And if you look at what he's done for the employment rate, I mean, the unemployment rate is down around 3.6. Everybody's 401ks and all making more money than they've ever made now. So things are good. I think people are stepping back a little bit, but I don't see this skepticism that in the business side or in the individual side as I talk to people in our general area.
Well, and Aaron, okay, so Orange, Wake County, Alamance County, Durham County, you know, your area of dominant influence over there, when you're banging around over there and doing the things you do you get the sense people are apprehensive at all?
We're not hearing them talk about recession or preparing for recession or withholding investment. They are talking about they can't find the talent that they need in order to do the work. They're having to pay wages dramatically higher than they did just a year or two ago. And some of that has to do with immigration reform. Some of that has to do with a growing economy. But we can't find the workers that we need, and that's their number one challenge. They're competing against Amazon in a changing environment. Those are the things that they're complaining about. But in general, all the buzz of the national news, and it is so sensational, the things that the president says, what's happening across the country, has everyone, I think, sort of with their head down. If we had a hashtag, it would be double down on local. We're gonna try to control the parts we can control. I have no influence, neither do they, the small businesses, over what's happening out of the White House or in China. What we can affect is what's happening in the greater Chapel Hill-Carrboro market, and our members and small business, I think, are really trying to focus there.
So what do you think, it's a question for both of you, so is job one to find talent? Is that it? Businesses just can't find the workers, and that's what's holding them back?
We have two issues, customer acquisition and talent.
When you say customer acquisition,
we got to find someone to buy the product. Oh. So if I say to them, hey, what is the regulatory issue that's your challenge, or what do you wish state government would do different, or the feds, they sometimes struggle, small business, to answer that question, but they do know I need more customers to buy my product. How do I either sell it internationally, do a better job of selling it local, or compete with Amazon if they're a retailer? Mm-hmm. And then on the office side, or even a mechanic, auto mechanic, is really struggling to find the worker that can do the job for the wage.
Well, and I go back to what Aaron's saying. I think when 2008, 2009, Chris, when we went through the recession, there were a lot of college kids that were looking for jobs and couldn't find jobs, and they were filling the void in a lot of our small businesses for a long, long time. Now with the economy going up, those young people are finding jobs in the areas in which they were trained, and now you're really trying to find jobs from people that aren't qualified and don't have the skill sets, or don't have the interpersonal skills to do a lot of things that those children were doing or young people were doing when they came out. I do think that we've got to be careful because particularly big businesses are trying to automate as much as they can. And as they automate things, there's less room for people to have jobs. And that's a slippery slope, because all of a sudden you got to have people to buy your products. And when they're not working, what's going to happen there? So we got to be mindful of providing jobs and having good qualified jobs, and not move down the automation track too awfully quickly.
And for us, manufacturing is not a big part of our economy, but we are seeing both they cannot find the unskilled, semi-skilled workers, nor can they find the skilled workers. And auto mechanic,
where are they? Aaron, where's the population?
It was I believe two things are happening. One, there was immigration reform that has cut off a pipeline of workers that were working.
H-2B workers?
Or folks that weren't here with legal permission but were working in our hotel industry and restaurant or some manufacturing, and those folks aren't available anymore, and that has caused some challenges. That's thing one. And thing two is that the economy is growing faster than folks are moving to market.
And going back to, the other thing that I'd just add to what Aaron's saying is, I don't think a lot of people understand the type of jobs that are in advanced manufacturing and the technical skills you need. They're doing other things. And we may get to talk about this a little bit later in the show, about how we're going to prepare that next generation of people to be able to come into those technical skill jobs, whether it's in robotics and teaching them those types of things versus liberal arts. And I've always been one of these that, we need to have our kids going to our technical colleges and all and getting those type of skill sets, because that's where the jobs are being created right now.
And I agree with that. And if I might just jump in a little more, you can go get an undergraduate degree in sociology and go make $32,000 working the front desk of a law firm, or you can go get a community college degree and make $75,000 as an auto mechanic, or $90,000 as an HVAC repair person. And I think we got to go back into our high schools and remind people that there are multiple paths, and that there's great careers with great wages in the trades.
Yeah, I suspect our guest, President Lugo, is going to have something to be.
And I think that's going to be a great discussion.
Well, and I'm from Chapel Hill, and there is a huge importance of the liberal arts education, but it is not a one. We're going to have to send people down multiple paths.
Let's take about 2 minutes and not more, and it's not going to be fair, but in the next 2 minutes before we bring our guest on, Odie, I want to start with something. University of South Carolina in Columbia, it's been very contentious about the next president, Robert Caslen. I think that's how you said. I've never understood how you said his name. But the idea that Darla Moore came out, didn't like the idea, or the governor's involved in the search and people didn't like that idea. And I'm not playing favorites. I'm simply asking the question, and it's happened at Carolina. I'm sorry, not South Carolina, but North Carolina, with Carol Folt. It happened in the College of Charleston with President McConnell. Why are these selection process becoming increasingly more acrimonious? What is going on?
Well, I think the availability of information is out there a lot more than it used to be. I mean, you used to look at newspapers and you'd get your information from there. I mean, it's on-time delivery of everything. And the other thing, too, is I don't really understand why you bring all these other people into the process. I mean, if you put a board of trustees there to hire the head of your university, I don't think the governor ought to be intervening in this. I mean, it goes back to government and management. I mean, you put the team over to govern the university to hire and manage and get out of the way. But I think it's just everything in our whole society, Chris. I think you go back and look at students. When were students ever a really, really big part of the hiring process? They put themselves in the middle of it by having social media to have protests against them. It just didn't happen like that before. And I think social media and just the contentiousness of our whole society right now is adding to the whole issue. I mean, when was the superintendent of West Point never not a credible candidate to run the university?
Aaron, what's your take?
What we're seeing in a public university system is over politicization of the appointments of trustees and boards of governors. 20 years ago, we were appointing people that we knew had university experience. Now it is much more partisan, appointing people that are aligned with our political views. And so our trustees and boards of governors have gotten a lot more polarized or heavily set in a certain direction. I think just like we ought to draw our congressional districts with independent boards, we ought to.
There's a thought.
I mean, we ought to do that. We ought to appoint our trustees and our university folks with bipartisan or independent groups. It'll be better for the university. It shouldn't be as controversial as it is. It shouldn't be as political as it is.
And one quick follow-up on that, specific to North Carolina, specific to East Carolina University, Dan Gerlach, a non-educator now, has taken the role of its chancellor at East Carolina University. Is that something that could be a model for what the UNC system and other schools do about the qualifications of someone who's able to run a higher ed?
We are hearing more talk about that. It is a multi-billion-dollar institution, and some folks think you ought to have a CEO who knows how to run a multi-billion-dollar institution rather than somebody who went up through the ranks of a PhD but wasn't trained in that. However, for 200 years, we've successfully run our universities by promoting faculty to levels of administration and hiring folks with deep history in the academy to run our universities. And I'll say we've run them successfully into the admiration of the world under that old model.
Thank you, guys. We're going to bring our guest here in just a moment. Not next week, but coming up in the next couple weeks on this program, Lou Kennedy has been here before. It's a woman, if you don't know. Lou Kennedy is the CEO of Nephron Pharmaceuticals in Columbia and has taken not just the bull by the horns, but is doing some things pretty amazing between business and education. We'll talk to Lou Kennedy and also Fred Whitfield, the president of the Charlotte Hornets, the vice chairman of the Charlotte Hornets, a partner, so to speak, with Michael Jordan around that franchise, but also doing things way beyond what the Charlotte Hornets have done for the Charlotte region and the Carolinas. We'll have Fred Whitfield on then. Terms like proven leader, a spark of leadership, infectious enthusiasm, among others, have been used to describe our next guest. During his most recent posting at Colby College, way up there in Maine, our guest honed his ability to raise money, which some university and college presidents will say off the record is the most important talent to develop. Joining us now is the 21st president of Queen's University of Charlotte, Daniel Lugo. President Lugo, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Chris. It's an honor to be on the program.
And we're going to spare you from some of the dialogue that you're probably thinking, are you going to ask me about appointing a president?
Happy to talk about any of it, but I think letting them master that end of the pool would be great.
But I will. So, President Lugo, you bring this idea of enthusiasm and energy to a typical, not a typical, but a urban core university with the idea that you want it to be an international, diverse place where people know about it in the globe, and you want to brand it differently. Explain that a little bit.
Yeah, I would say not so much differently, because we are all of those things already. We have a unique portfolio of assets, an incredible undergraduate institution and college that's been around since 1857, great professional and graduate programs that we've built on over the past 2 decades, in one of the most vibrant cities in the country and in one of the most beautiful neighborhoods that you're ever going to find. So we have a product and an experience that I believe is attractive to college-going students around the region, around the nation, and around the world. And so I think that's really great for our future. As demographics are telling us, the college-going age group is going to diminish over the next 2 decades. But the fact that we have a competitive and attractive product to promote around the world is going to be a huge advantage for us. And I think that's part of my responsibility to the board and my responsibility to our students and faculty and to the legions of alumni that are going to want to see the investment they made in their degree to continue to have value and grow.
Otis?
Great.
Well, Mr. President, this was nice talking to you a little bit earlier. We were actually talking about, I think a lot of people don't even know that your university is very diverse as far as academics and athletics and everything else. I mean, I think a lot of people would like to hear that Queens is just not, used to be an all-women's school basically 2 decades ago. Now it's very diverse, got an athletic program that's being very successful, and people looking to find a university home may be interested in hearing what you're doing there and what the university's doing in that area a little bit.
Yeah, I'm proud to be the 21st president, taking the reins from Dr. Pamela Davies, who is so well known in the nation and around this region, to talk about what was achieved, a comprehensive university. That's what we provide. We have great opportunities for undergraduate students, and as I said earlier, great professional programs. But it is an immersive community where you're going to get that college experience from a distance, from on campus. That includes 32 Division II competitive sports where we're quite proud of the excellence that we've built there. We're number 4 in the nation in Division II from the Learfield Cup standings, and over the past 3 years, we've been in the top 10. So everything that we've been pursuing at Queen's University of Charlotte has matured wonderfully, and it's time for us to tell our story so we're recognized for that excellence.
Like I said, I would have never known any of that until we were talking a little bit earlier
You're
today.
probably beyond their demographic.
But you should know. People listen to you. People listen to you, and I want you to be able to tell those folks.
It's just, you look for a complete university, and I think that's what Queens is.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank
Talk to me a little bit about one of the things that we had discussed is a third of the students are the first in their family to go to college.
Correct.
You have a third of your students that are Pell eligible and are able to get some federal financial aid, yet you've been able to maintain exceptional academics. How do you balance those challenges?
Yeah, I think that's actually noteworthy, the fact that we have been able to figure that out, that we're providing opportunities to students who come from backgrounds that weren't typically on college campuses, and that most of those students are thriving in our academic environment and in their life. After they graduate, over 95% of our students are gainfully employed or pursuing graduate education, which is an incredible benchmark. And that ability to recruit students who have incredible motivation and drive, and to support them through their experience and to launch them to great outcomes is really what our mission, and it's what wakes me up every day excited about this job. That is truly, my calling, and it's great to find an institution that is so aligned with those purposes and that mission.
Go ahead, Aaron.
I was going to say, I watch metro universities. They are often commuter schools.
Right.
And yours isn't. You have 80% of your students getting that on-campus experience. Is that true?
From the undergraduate perspective, that's exactly right. We've excelled in being a place-based residential model, and I think there are actually opportunities for us to grow through our online program, through our graduate programs, and through having more non-traditional undergraduates, older undergraduates, commute to our campus. We want to be a solution, a provider of education to the broadest spectrum of students from across the region and from across the world.
The way you articulate that, President Lugo, I think gives you the leverage to be able to charge a fair price or even a premium price for tuition. However, let me come back to something, and I know this is not going to be new to you. You've talked about this ad nauseum. But when you talk about the expense now for the average student, the average family, and this is the average, about going to an institution like Queen's University, and it starts to become out of reach and prohibitive, but on top of it, just the calculus around financing and entry point and how much does it cost is confusing. How does, and this is my term, sir, but the runaway cost of education, how do you somehow attenuate that, get that under control, and still be fair to paying the bills and charging a fair price, but not letting it become an elite club to have to attend and pay for?
I think that's a great question, and we have to pay careful attention to our cost structures and really to the conversation around value. And I'll say to your audience that college is worth it. there is still, the data shows, $1 million of premium on getting your undergraduate degree versus being purely a high school graduate. So college is worth it. And more students from underrepresented and underserved backgrounds are going to college. We're focused on the value. There is no question that it's hard in a very talent-based economic model that relies on getting folks with terminal degrees. We're talking about PhDs and masters, and providing benefits for that community and keeping up with technology. It's an expensive proposition. So we're focused on the value that our students are having and ensuring that it's affordable. So unfortunately, we're not like a product. It is hard to compare institutions across the board merely by looking at sticker prices. One, we'd encourage folks to apply to a number of schools at a wonderful diversity of price points and a program emphasis. And then you have to make a determination. Is it the right value proposition for you and your family to make that investment? At Queens, I feel strongly that we make a clear argument that we're well worth the cost of what it costs to attend our institution.
Howdy.
Well, I think going back to, Mr. President, what Aaron and I were talking about a little bit in the previous part about, everybody's just not pigeonholed to go to college. And I know that y'all offer 32 different undergraduate degrees and all, and with a small, finite number of kids that produces, I know, a good, high quality of education. But from a business perspective, we always get in this argument about liberal arts colleges and the degrees that they're producing. I know you've got a business administration degree and all that kind of stuff.
We do.
So how are you producing the right kid for a business environment? I can understand the education side, I can understand the law school supply, I can understand all those other things. But from a business perspective, what's your vision for preparing more kids to go into the business sector and business environment?
Well, I think that's an important argument about the value of the liberal arts in a 21st century economy, which I'm happy to take on, in that the value of an agile thinker or someone that is able to think interdisciplinary of what that means to business is critically important. And what it means to the disruption around technology and artificial intelligence, as so many of the transactional skills will be outsourced or be done by a computer. We actually need students with our types of backgrounds that are hybrid. That they're hybrid with a great undergraduate curriculum with foundations around interdisciplinary thinking in the liberal arts, but yes, channeling into communications, channeling into business, channeling into education to actually get those skills. And then to treat education not only as 2 semesters, but a comprehensive experience like we do at Queens, where our students are required to take multiple internships and take advantage of the wealth of opportunities in the city of Charlotte and the surrounding areas. So I'm telling you that businesses should be coming to our campus because they're going to get students with experience, with skills, and really, really agile thinkers that are going to be great team players in their companies.
Just to follow, so how do you plan on getting those businesses to invest in Queens, come to Queens, and look at your kids and hire your kids?
Well, we're already doing that and doing it incredibly well, and our placement will show that, but we can't rest on that. We are investing in our career center, named after Bill Vandeveer, who is a just absolute legend in this region, to provide employer relations folks that are going out into the community to find out about the needs of our workforce. I think that there is room we need to train a diverse workforce through lots of different channels, and we're really fortunate in this state to have those technical schools, to have great state research institutions, and to have a sector of private universities and colleges. In America, we created this brand of higher education that is now being emulated around the world. I hope we don't go away from it. I hope we invest in that diversity and ensure that we can train the full workforce for our needs.
We have about 1 minute left.
Well, and that argument's compelling for me. I have an undergraduate degree in philosophy, and my mom always said, what is that going to prepare you for? And I guess it's running a Chamber of Commerce. So we do need to
use it every day.
Train people in thinking. And I think we can be pro-vegetable without being anti-meat. And by that I mean that we can be pro-community college and still talk about the importance of the liberal arts education and find a way that to do 2 paths to give our workforce what they need.
We've got such an important job to educate Americans across the board. And yes, investing in the diversity of opportunities is I love how you put that. We can be pro-vegetable and not anti-meat. I think higher education in the United States is one of the best industries that we've ever created. And it's so good that over 1 million students from around the world come to the United States to be educated. That's an incredible economy and an incredible example of the excellence that we provide.
Well, I can see how people would label you as infectious enthusiasm, President Lugo. You've got it in spades, so thank you for being here and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. It's been a pleasure.
It's good to see you. Aaron, pro-vegetable and not anti-meat. That's going to be running on a loop in my head. But anyway, it's good to see you again.
Thanks for the invitation.
Odie, thanks for making the trip.
You. Always glad to be here.
Thank you. If you have any questions, comments, please go to carolinabusinessreview.org. Watch programs, make suggestions for future programs. Until next week, I'm Chris William. Good night.
Major funding for Carolina Business Review provided by Martin Marietta, Colonial Life, the Duke Endowment, Barings, Grant Thornton, Sunoco, Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, and by viewers like you. Thank you. Promotional consideration provided by Business North Carolina Magazine. For more information, visit carolinabusinessreview.org.